My name is Brittany Sabo. I am 35 years old and married, and I am a huge reader. And I don't feel like I have enough people in my real life to talk about books with, so welcome to my online community. Just before we get started on some of my favorite books, I just wanted to put this out there that this community will be inclusive. We will not be allowing any hate speech, any politics. We are not doing that. We are not talking about the president or whatever. I know reading is political and that's fine, but we are not going to be doing that. Also, if somebody comments and does not like a book that you read that you did like, we are not going to be having a sparring match. We are not going to be disrespectful. We are not going to be mean to people, name calling, anything like that. I welcome different opinions from myself, but we are not going to be doing anything hateful in this community. So if that is something that you like to do, I think that you should hit the door. You are not welcome here. Like I said, I welcome discourse, I welcome debate, I welcome people challenging my opinions, but I will not welcome people who are hateful and mean and rude on this channel. So if that is you, please get off this video now. I think reading is so subjective, and there have been books that have gone viral that I've picked up and read that I didn't like, but I am never interested in canceling a book or telling somebody, I didn't like this, so you shouldn't like it either, or you shouldn't read it or whatever, because just because I don't like something doesn't mean that you won't, or just because you like something doesn't mean that I won't. So it's back and forth like that. So my reading journey started as a young child. My parents actually would read to me on their lap when I was an infant, and they always fostered a love of books, a love of reading with me, and taking me to the library, taking me to Barnes & Noble, taking me to little bookstores and stuff like that. And when I was in elementary school, I was the kid that was sitting behind a generator and reading during recess and reading in class and everything like that, and have always been a big reader. And so it's just one of my biggest passions, and it's one of my biggest hobbies. And yeah, so I do want to discuss some books. So this year I have made it through 36 books, and I want to discuss some of my favorite ones and least favorite so far. This year I did start the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and that is unique, if you want to call it that. I knew I was going to be in trouble from the first page and of the first book, and I'm looking at my Goodreads right now. So this year I was reading, I have the book right here. I was reading Daggermouth, and I read about half of it, and I was like, there's so many errors in this book, I can't do this anymore. I just kept finding so many grammatical errors, and I knew it was self-published, but you gotta clean up your work before you send it out to the world. And I know that it has been re-released and probably cleaned up and edited. I was actually thinking of continuing this book and probably finishing it and maybe selling it to a local bookstore that allows you to trade in books, because I'm only, I think, maybe 200 pages away from finishing it, which I could do pretty quickly. But yeah, this one broke me. So then I went to classics this year, and I have been loving them. So the first one that I read, and let me just say this as well, when I was in high school, I had a teacher that, when I was in AP English, told me that if you can't read classics or Shakespeare, then you don't belong in this class. Would not get me any help, would not do anything. Like, I asked if I could read No Fear Shakespeare, and she told me no, and told me that I didn't belong in the class. So from 2009, when I graduated, up until now, I have not been reading classics because I was too intimidated. But I was reading, like I said, Daggermouth, and then I picked up The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, and this book is so gorgeous. But I read the majority of this on my Kobo, so I have a Kobo Libra Color, and if you're going to start reading classics, I do recommend them reading electronically on a Kindle or a Kobo, because it has a built-in dictionary, so if you don't know a word, you can just click on it and it'll define it for you. But I absolutely love this Anne Bronte book. I had a lot of trouble with the wording, the Old English, and also to orient yourself to the time period, because there is spousal abuse and stuff like that in this book. But it was so worth the read. And I just was like, I just want to read classics. I want to read modern books and classics this year. Also, I have made myself a list of Disney books, like the books that inspire Disney movies, and I'm on my Goodreads right now on my computer. So I read Mary Poppins, and I know I read The Little Mermaid, Snow White, I want to say, and I'm working on The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I just downloaded The Fox and the Hound and Bambi on my Kobo for free through Kobo Plus. So have been working on those books, and then I also read The Picture of Dorian Gray. I love this. There was a point, I would say about 65% done to 70% done, where I was like, I don't think I like this, and I kind of want to DNF it. If you're new to the book community, DNF means did not finish, but I pushed through it and I ended up loving it after a certain event happened, and I'm not going to spoil it, but if you want to pick this up, pick it up. So this year I've been collecting classic books, which are on my bookshelf right here. So I have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is my copy of Hunchback of Notre Dame. I want to say 40% done, or 30-something% done. And then I have Persuasion by Jane Austen. I have The Great Gatsby. We have Frankenstein, the 1818 text. This is one I was told I needed to read. I have Jane Eyre, by Charlotte Bronte. I have Tess of the, I don't know how to say this word, so we're just gonna quit before I butcher it. And then at Books A Million, I found this Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, and I just thought this book was so gorgeous, and I had to pick it up, and I do actually want to read this sometime this year, but it's just so beautiful, and I had to have this copy. So, and then, like I mentioned, this year I have been reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and I'm on the 4th book, The Gate of the Feral Gods. I am 40-something% done with it. I struggled so bad through the 3rd book with the trains and with the iron tangle and everything like that, and just was not having a good time with it, but I finished it and gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. Just did not enjoy it as much, but this one I've been flying through and just enjoying it so much. It's so chaotic, it has so much humor to it, and I can't get enough of it. So there's that one. And I mentioned I have a Kobo Libra Color, so the integration with the library is just amazing. I absolutely love it. So I get a physical book from the library sometimes, and I also download the copy on here from the library, so I have both of them going at the same time. Or else, if there's daily deals on here, then I will get that for 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99, or something like that. And I strongly support our local libraries. So I have this little sticker, support local libraries, but I am there all the time. I put books on hold. I love using the library, and I think more people need to use their libraries, because I see so much overconsumption of books online, and it just drives me up the wall with people. And I'm also on book 2 of the Red Rising series, so I have Golden Sun, and I am 120 pages into it, so I think that was like 30-something% or something like that. But this community will be, like I said, inclusive. If you disagree with some of the books that I'm reading or have read, that's fine. You're allowed to disagree, but you are not allowed to come on here and cancel books for somebody else. I also read Mad Mabel. I read a book called I See You've Called in Dead. That was interesting. I also read, my favorite book this year has been Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. That was amazing. If you're having trouble with the scientific aspect and stuff like that, just push through, because Rocky comes in and you will never forget him. And I finished the audio. I recommend it on audio also. I finished the audiobook and I had tears coming out of my eyes. And that was also not a book that I actually wanted to read either. So that was a big surprise for me to give it, like, if I could have given it 10 stars, I would have. I absolutely loved it. Also, I'm working on the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. I think those are so cute. And another book that I also loved this year was This Book Made Me Think of You by Libby Page. I cried the whole way through this book. This book was published on February 3rd, 2026, which is, my dad passed away on February 3rd, 2012, and it has aspects of grief and loss. It's about a woman who loses her husband, and he goes to the bookstore before he passes away, and he picks 12 books for her, so one book a month for the next 12 months, and puts messages in them and stuff like that, and just helps her along her grief. And she becomes friends with the bookstore owner, and he has lost his dad, David, which was my dad's name. And then there's also a character in that book who dies from pancreatic cancer, which is what my dad died from. So it was just very strange. Like, it was like I was supposed to find that book. And I gave it 5 stars. I cried my whole way through it. Like I said, I just kept tearing up and crying. Also I read this one from the library. This is Miss Mabel Goes Back to the Chopping Block. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like this or not at first. It was another take almost on like Legally Blonde. This is my library copy. And there was certain points where I really didn't like the main character, Mabel, which you're not supposed to, I feel like, at first. And so what happens in this book is Mabel has a husband of 44 years, or 40 years, or something like that. And they are very wealthy, and he leaves her for their cook. And so Mabel decides at 63 years old that she is going to go back to school to learn to be a chef, and she is trying to win her husband back. And then you see her progression, her character development over the story, and you see her growing stronger. And it's just, I thought it was such a good read. I will buy a copy of this probably to keep on my shelf, because it was such a surprise. Like, I almost gave up on this multiple times, and then I ended up loving it. So those are just at least some of the books that I've been reading this year. I'm taking a look at my Goodreads to see my past challenges. So let's look at 2025. Where is it? 2025. Okay, so last year I had a goal of 30 books. I read 40. Some of my favorites were Slewfoot. It got hard to read at certain points because there was some graphic stuff in there, but that's okay. I read the, Divine Rivals duology, and loved it, ate it up. I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I love that one too. And I read Every Summer After and One Golden Summer. Then I heard that Every Summer After was actually ripped off of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, and I started reading that one this year, and I could see it. I could see it within the first few chapters, so I'm going to finish that book and maybe make an update, because I have both of them in my hand, like in my bookshelf. Last year was also the year that I opened myself back up to romance books, and it was probably because I was getting married. I got married in September of last year, but I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I read Every Summer After. I read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And then I read Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez. And I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. Don't even get me started, because I did not like that book. I got rid of it as soon as I possibly could. I read Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I thought it was cute. Not the best writing, but it's okay. It was cute. And let's see. I read If It Makes You Happy by Julia Olivia, and I love that one. So those are some of the ones. And also last year I read The 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hildebrand, and I really liked it. Just looking through here. I read Fourth Wing, but I was not interested in continuing the series. So there's that. The one year, 2022, I made a goal of 100 books. I read 4. And I was like, you gotta get off your phone. You gotta start reading again. You gotta just, like, read at night, read whenever. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. So, ready to hear maybe some criticisms of some of the books that I've been talking about. And let's have some conversation. So, here is my little Libra color. I love this thing so much. And I will probably make a whole video on that as well. I just downloaded several books earlier, so some classics and some other ones. So welcome to my channel, and I hope you enjoy.